Welcome to Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on this podcast. Like we always do, he's been doing a lot of activities for his alternative party. He's been doing a lot of things, getting the thing going and doing wonderful actions to make this world a better place. His name is Brad Touchette. So welcome to the podcast, Brad.
Thank you for having me.
We are glad to have you. If we can get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Sure. My name is Brad Touchette. I'm in my mid-50s. I live in St. Charles, Missouri, which is essentially just outside of St. Louis. We're basically a suburb of St. Louis. I'm the chairman of the St. Charles County Libertarian Party, and this organization's been around for about 10 years. I have been the chairman of our group for about 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And I've run for a couple of offices myself, or I will run for one office myself this 2 election cycles ago. And then last time around this big election, I was mostly supporting our other candidates throughout the state of Missouri. But I've been a libertarian since my college days back in the 90s when I first discovered the party. And I don't know if that's about what you want to know, the basics. That would be it.
Yeah, that's good. Yep. So that's interesting. So you've been a libertarian since the 90s. That would be about 3 decades, huh?
Yeah. And it's funny because I came across the Libertarian Party. I was raised with my family's house. They were very Republican. And I was originally brought up to, obviously believe in their values, but as I got into college, there were a lot of things the Republicans were doing that didn't match up with my values, and there were a lot of things that the Democrats were doing that didn't match up with my values. And I'm not going to go into details on either one of those, but the one thing that I kept running into was that I believe in the individual, and I believe that nobody can be happy unless they're free to pursue their own happiness. And both the Republicans and the Democrats, as I got older and started getting involved in politics, started realizing that they were using government to coerce people. The Republicans would do it via religion, and the Democrats would do it via government policy. And I just found that creating a lot of unhappiness depending on who was in office that time around. So I discovered the Libertarian Party, and it was funny as I discovered them and registered myself as a Libertarian. For a while there in the mid-'90s, people in Missouri barely knew who the Libertarians were. I even had one friend ask me, he said, "Libertarians, aren't those guys devil worshippers?" No, we're not devil worshippers. There may be a few of us who are devil worshippers. Yeah. I don't know, because if that's who you want to worship as a libertarian, I would support your choice to worship whoever you see fit.
Exactly.
So, but yeah. So
I wonder where they got that from. That side.
I don't. Well, obviously a third party, and I'm sure people in your audience can recognize this. Anybody who's a party outside of the two major ones represents, at the very least, a little bit of a threat to the established duopoly.
Sure, yeah.
So there's been propaganda about libertarians, about the Green Party, about the other parties. I can't remember their names off the top of my head right now, but the other parties that aren't Democrat or Republican. And both parties are more than happy to smear us with unfounded accusations. So you just kind of have to roll with it and say, that's not true.
Yeah.
And so...
My party meets... Okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, my party, we meet once a month, and we're organizing stuff. My group in particular is growing very quickly.
Good.
We got new members coming up. We're starting to have representatives for each of our districts that are assigned committee chairs. And it's been exciting. We had a lot of people show more interest as the election drew nearer. And there's a little too late to make a big difference insofar as the voting went and outreach for this past election. But everybody that has expressed interest is still interested. So we've actually got a meeting tonight again, and we're starting to plan our outreach stuff to spread the word of libertarianism and start reaching out to a couple of the local campuses in St. Charles County, coordinate with the St. Louis County Libertarian Party as well. And it's an exciting time to be a part of this party.
Great, yeah. It sounds like you're doing good stuff there. So the St. Charles area, you said that's part of the St. Louis, the greater St. Louis area, right?
Yeah, we're just divided by the Missouri River. I mean, if you didn't know about the Missouri River, people would consider us a suburb of St. Louis. We're right on top of St. Louis.
Oh, okay. So are the demographics there similar to the demographics of St. Louis?
St. Louis County, yes. Not so much the city, but St. Louis County, the demographics are very similar, yes.
Okay, so what are the demographics of St. Louis County?
Well, it's mostly blue-collar, working-class people, but they're more, I would say they're more Republican-leaning.
Oh.
The city, obviously, is more Democrat-leaning, but the county is more Republican-leaning. And obviously, we're pretty diverse insofar as demographics go with between racial lines. But I mean, I don't have any numbers to back or to share with you guys. But it's every race. They tend to lean Republican. Republicans tend to win a lot in St. Louis County, but it's a lot closer than people give it credit for, because
okay.
I would say that St. Louis County and St. Charles County in particular is pretty purple.
Oh, good.
I guess the best example I could tell you about was the one time I ran for county council because there was a Republican running here in St. Charles, and he was running unopposed. And this was my first bite at the apple of actually running for office. And I didn't do anything. I didn't buy signs. I didn't promote myself. I just put my name on the ballot just to see what it was like to run for office. And it was obviously fun, and it was a great learning experience. But without doing anything, no name recognition, no nothing, I still got 28% of the vote in my district.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's more than 1 in every 4 people. So people say this is a Republican stronghold. I would say no, it leans Republican, but there's a lot of people who can also see through the Republican promise of smaller government until they take power, and then it becomes like the Lord of the Rings, where no, we can destroy the ring or we can use it for good. And how about you guys actually do what you said you were going to do and start shrinking the government?
Yes.
Let's start with that. So.
Yes, there you go. So is St. Louis a state that has registration by party?
You could volunteer up until last election. Now they're more requesting it. It's great because now I've discovered how many libertarians are actually in my district that haven't come to a meeting yet. But we have a lot more than what I'd known. The state does allow for registration. Before, when I said I'd registered as a libertarian in the 90s, Missouri wasn't tracking that stuff, but the National Party was. So I've been a member of the National Libertarian Party and, contributing my dues and stuff when I can. And as soon as they started tracking by registration by party, you could still register as an independent, but as soon as I could, I registered as a libertarian. So that whenever the primaries come around, I get a libertarian primary ballot.
Okay. Okay, good. So what is ballot access like in your county and your state?
What's what ballot access like? Well, there is an ID requirement that you do have to show some form of ID, but it's very lax. You can use a utility bill or other forms of ID, but you do have to present some form of ID to get to have a ballot to vote. Yeah.
No, for the I'm talking about the party for the party to get on the ballot, for the Libertarian Party to get on the ballot.
Missouri's got a policy that you need to have at least 3% of the overall general vote to be considered active.
Okay.
As long as you maintain 3%, you're considered active. Otherwise, your party has to go around to county fairs and collect collect signatures. Now, interesting you brought that up because Missouri this past year actually passed a law that we're going to be trying to undo where they made ranked choice voting illegal.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Essentially, the Republicans and the Democrats were more than happy to team up and say, yeah, you're going to have to win outright by a plurality instead of a majority. And that has really put a damper on us, and it reduces choice.
Yes.
So we are, and actually Kansas City, which is on the other side of the state, they had ranked choice voting up and into this election. Some libertarians had won a few spots, and they found it very effective that people were having the choice to choose, rank who they wanted to vote for. Your first choice is this guy, second choice is that guy. And that's why we were obviously in big favor of it. And not only because, obviously, as libertarians, we would like to win more offices than we do, but it also, we found that when people have that kind of choice, the extremists on either end of the Democrat or Republican Party don't rule the roost like they do right now, because the way the election system is currently set up, excuse me, the way it's currently set up is you have a primary, and then the person who wins that primary becomes the representative for the general election for that party.
Yeah.
That only lends itself to allowing the most extremist and loudest voice of that primary to win.
Yeah.
And the only people who show up to vote for primaries are true political wonks.
Yeah.
And those people are more often than not, very dedicated to their party and wanting to see their party win at all costs. And they're not interested in anybody else. It's just my party has got to win. Republicans do that just as much as Democrats.
Sure.
So the way that this ranked choice voting benefits is once you get to the general election, that candidate that's running, say, for the Republican Party, he wants all the libertarians' votes insofar as if you're not going to vote Libertarian first, or if you're going to vote Libertarian first, then vote for me second. And the Democrats are going to be the same way. So what that ends up doing is pulling these extremists more towards the middle to where you have to represent more of our interests if you're going to want our second place votes, so that they have a chance if the Libertarian were not to win outright, then they get the votes of those people who their candidate lost. And by doing that, it balances out the scales a lot better.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that sounds like a good thing. A lot of our audience likes that type of thing, so that's good.
Right. And say, I don't know, I know you guys are obviously nationwide and probably worldwide. If you're involved politically, make sure that you're keeping an eye on the state legislatures, that they're not trying to pass outlawing ranked choice voting for you guys as well, because this is going to be an uphill battle. It's very easy to add amendments to the Missouri Constitution, and it's very hard to get them out, removed.
Oh, no.
The Missouri Constitution, I believe the book right now is 350 pages, I think. It's ridiculous. You can get You can get the United States Constitution in a little 14, 15-page book you can carry in your pocket. You can't even carry the Missouri Constitution without a letter from your doctor making sure your back is strong enough.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, wow, that's interesting how that works in a bad way. It's interesting in a bad way.
Yep.
And so in order to get a constitutional amendment, you said it's not too hard in Missouri, and thus the sheer bulk of the Constitution proves that. What do you have to do to repeal an amendment in Missouri?
Well, you've got to get, I believe, 2/3 of a majority. I want to say 2/3 or 3/4 of a majority. I'm just going into the research on this now because I've never really tried to repeal an amendment. But you've got to get, I believe, at least 2/3 of a majority of the Missouri senators to vote to repeal something. And that's going to be very difficult, considering repealing this amendment is, neither the Republicans nor the Democrats have any interest in seeing this thing come off the books because it's a threat to their power in the duopoly.
Yeah,
so it's going to be a little tricky. But we're still, there's another initiative we're supporting, that we're doing, and we're having trouble with this too, and can't figure out why. but it's the Defend the Guard initiative, which is simply an amendment we want added that says, you can't use our Missouri National Guard soldiers to go overseas to fight unless there's a declaration of war. It's that simple.
Wow.
We don't like the police state. This is probably common sense to all of your listeners. But we don't like us using our best and our bravest and the ones who are willing to die to defend our liberties. We don't want them getting injured or killed overseas in a war that doesn't directly affect us and is generally serving either big corporations in one sense or another, or private interest groups within the government. These are our soldiers. These are basically kids, 18 to 24, most of them, and they believed in the country and they love the country, and we should be leveraging that devotion by protecting them and making sure that they stay on our shores ready to defend us as they signed up for. And the only reason they would have to go overseas is if we are in an active war as declared by the United States Congress. That's another thing we're trying to support, is we take that power away from the presidency. It's technically still in place. It's just not in force. That the Congress has to declare war, not the president.
Yes.
The president can't determine war. So we're trying to get that reinforced as well.
Yeah, so how are you going to do that? Because from what I read, the way it's been working since World War II is they don't call them wars, so that's the way they get around it. They call it police actions or stuff like that. So how do we hold them accountable to this, to make them declare it when they're trying to weasel their way out of it?
Well, the Defend the Guard bill is not only in Missouri, but we're one of, oh boy, I should be a little more prepared for this. We're one of a bunch of states, let's put it that way, that have this in the works. And all the Defend the Guard is, instead of trying to, what we're trying to do is require that the Defend the Guard, or that the government has to declare war in order for us to send any of our troops overseas.
Oh, sure.
So they can call whatever action they want. They can call it whatever they want, but unless it's war, you can't send our troops over there. And we do that. We're doing that in Missouri, and I'd have to look to see the other states. But there's a bunch of them there. The bill is stalled, but we're going to try to get this back up, especially for the 26 midterm elections. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's something we wouldn't think about every day as something to put forward, but the way you explain it, that's a very reasonable proposition, so that's a good idea.
It's not mine, but when we heard about it, we definitely rallied right behind it, said, yeah, let's support this.
Oh, sure. So what other initiatives is your party in your area doing?
Well, we're also trying to repeal this, what I kind of call a voluntary gas tax, because the party in power, which was and still is the Republican Party, a few years ago passed a gas tax that the way they passed it technically was illegal because they implemented the tax without getting the consent of the voters, and they did an end around by adding a condition that you can get your tax money back if you track all of your expenses and submit it with your taxes at the end of the year. So it's a giant hassle, and the tax shouldn't be there, but it is, and it goes up 2% each year. So next year it's going to be at 10%, and then I believe the year after that it's 12%. So we're trying to get that repealed.
Going up?
I'm sorry?
When does it stop going up? You said 2% every year. So does it stop at some point?
Yeah, I have to look at the schedule. But, I mean, right now, it started off at like 4% and then 6%, and now I think this year it's at 10%, and next year it'll be 12%. And that's
terrible.
12% on top of what you're paying for in taxes per gallon. And you could get, the thing about it is, wink, wink, nod, nod, you can get it back. All you got to do is get a receipt every single time that you buy gas, put it in a box, and at the end of the year, if you don't have enough to do with trying to comply to the IRS with the taxes, now you've got to document the date, the time, the mileage, and fill out this form at the end of the Missouri State tax form. It's a mess.
Yes.
And they like I said, they did an end around. They should have come forward with it and asked the Missouri voters if they wanted this tax or not, and they didn't. So there's a lot of people who are already aware of it, but there are more people when we're in our community outreach who aren't aware of it. So we certainly try to make them aware, and that's why we're always asking them for our vote. That's the one thing we're always pushing, is reminding people that, you know, a vote for us is actually a vote for you, because what we're trying to do is get the government out of your lives so you can pursue your own happiness. And that includes getting out of your wallet, because the one great thing about money is it's sort of the great equalizer, in the sense that money, when you have a lot of money, it gives you power. But when you the more money you have on a lower, smaller scale, money gives you options.
Yes.
So if we can get the money, or get the government out of your wallets, so that you get your money first and you determine how you want to spend it, and how you want it to be taxed, essentially what you want to purchase on to spend, to put tax money towards it, sort of a sales tax philosophy. There's a couple different ways we can do it. That's kind of my pet project. We talk about this a lot. But what we're trying to do is make sure that the government doesn't get your money first. You get your money, and then you determine how much you want to spend to give the government their share.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
it's working really well in Tennessee. They've got that.
Oh.
They've got that already for their state tax. All their state tax is as a state sales tax. They don't have income tax there. And people will complain when they go visit Nashville because everything's more expensive than it is everywhere else. It's all because that's how you're paying their state taxes. But if you do something smart about it, like, you know, you say you tax everything except food, water, and shelter, then people can control how much of their income they can give to the government.
Sure. Yeah. So Missouri has an income tax too, right, you said?
Yes, we do. We have a state income tax.
Okay, so from your libertarian perspective, do you think the state should have that tax? Or
no, I would love it to. I don't think so. And most of the people in my group, at least, agree that we should repeal the income tax. The Republicans in our state have been promising to repeal the income tax and put something similar to what Tennessee has in place, but they never really follow through.
Okay.
So, but I would love to see something like that, because, well, I've gotten in discussions with other people about this, and there are some, especially Democratic leaners, who are worried that if you leave the option to pay the taxes to the individual, that they would just starve the government of money. And that's not true, simply because everybody has to buy things to survive.
Sure.
Like, if for example, if somebody needs a $100 shirt to go to work, well, the person who's making half of that, let's say that person makes $100,000 a year and he's got to buy a $100 shirt. Well, then he's got to pay that percentage of taxes on that $100 shirt. The person making $50,000 a year could choose to buy that $100 shirt, or he could find another shirt that's only, $50, and then he's only paying a percentage. That way, it reduces how much taxes he has to pay by choosing to spend less. It's based on a percentage, and that way he can control the rest of his money.
Sure, there you go. Sounds good. So you said your official title is chair of the St. Charles County Libertarian Party, right?
Correct.
Okay. So for our audience, for people who may want to have leadership in their political party, what would a chair in a county party, what are their roles and responsibilities?
Well, obviously, the most important thing would be coordinating resources and efforts towards the other people who are running for office.
Okay.
As libertarians, and since we're not as big as the Republicans or the Democrats, we've got to do a lot of the footwork, the knocking on doors, the putting together the websites. My job is really, more than anything else, to make sure that my candidates have the support they need, have the resources they need. I'm kind of a hack when it comes to websites. Our website right now is kind of in transition. It's there, but it needs a lot of polishing. But if anybody's curious, we're at lpstchmo.org, which is just Libertarian Party, Saint, CH for Charles, Mo for Missouri.org. And
Okay.
that, that shows, it has the executive committee up there and some of the causes that we're doing. But as a chair, the other thing that I do, which I enjoy more than anything else, is during our monthly meetings, we have an agenda. We put together what we're going to discuss, cover old business, new business, just like any other organization. And we normally have that finished up in about an hour, but we meet at a restaurant every month, first Thursday of every month. And so the first half is getting the business out of the way and making sure we're coordinating our next outreach programs. We've got pavilions rented or the gun shows that we'd be going to or anything along those lines. And then we spend the second half, and everybody's invited, just debating and discussing the topics of the day. So it's a lot of fun, and everybody, I tell this to anybody, everybody's invited. If you're a hardcore lefty or a hardcore righty and you want to just sit in and have healthy debate, that's fine. Please join us, because all I do at that point, I just like to play referee more than anything else and just make sure everybody gets a chance to speak and gets to have their points, and, things get heated, I can dial it back. That's the fun part about it. And the best part about it for me personally is when I get into political debates or anything, it's okay if I don't know everything about the topic, or if I'm okay if my original position, I sometimes realize, well, I was wrong about that. Because
there you go.
what drives me nuts is politicians and political wonks who dig in their heels, and no matter what, their position is right, and they start, parroting what they've heard on the TV from their favorite radio station or TV station about these talking points, and are immovable and are not open to ideas. I'm okay with being wrong and possibly being proven wrong, or having exposed to something that I hadn't considered, because that's the way that I learn. That's the way that I grow. So my job is to not only promote the candidates, but to continue to promote individual liberty and individual freedom, and individual freedom of thought is the most important thing. We buy, we hand out stickers with the Libertarian Party, our mascot is a porcupine. So I hand out stickers with the red and blue porcupine for the kids. So we have fun with that. But the big role, obviously, is we've also got to worry about fundraising because we're self-supporting.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to think of everything that we do. I've got a new treasurer as of January, and he'd already put some things in place back in November. So that's going good. We're growing, and I do basically whatever needs to be done, including outreach like this. And again, that's why, before we wrap up, I again want to thank you for your time with bringing me onto your show.
Sure thing. So for our audience, you mentioned you gave the website for your chapter. Is that the best place to get in touch with you, or is there another place that they can get in touch with you?
Well, the best way to reach us right now is through our X account or Twitter account or Facebook.
Okay.
And they're all the same. It's at LPSTCHMO. That's on Facebook and it's on Twitter. And I run the Twitter account for our group. So if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, you can direct message me at that, and I try to respond to everybody who ever sends anything. And I'm also pretty active on Facebook. We want to eventually transition to where Facebook and Twitter/X is more of a supporting medium as opposed to our primary contact, and we'd like to get the website to be the primary source of information for everybody. But as of right now, if anybody were to want to reach out to me, have any questions, that the best way is to direct message me through Twitter there. And I was also very instrumental when we got the St. Charles chapter up and running. And I've been talking to a couple other people who are interested in starting chapters of the Libertarian Party in surrounding counties just outside of St. Louis. So I have things in place if anybody's curious about doing that and want to have, I don't know, a starter kit or some starter suggestions on if you want to organize a Libertarian Party in your county. I'd be more than willing to share with you what I have, the things that some of these lessons learned that worked well and some that didn't.
Great.
Yeah, when we first started, we had a bunch of people who were coming in and out of the meetings, and it was just more curiosity folk. And we still have that now, but we've also got a solid set of about 12 to 15 people every time we have a meeting, and they're
core group.
And they're the core group, and they're spreading the word. They're bringing their brothers and sisters, significant others, and dads. I've even got one guy bringing his dad tonight who's finally curious enough to come by.
Oh, good.
So, and the thing about it is, when you really talk to people at the end of the day, even Republicans and Democrats, outside of the ones who are extremists, are more libertarian than they even want to admit. Because most people really honestly believe they just want to be left alone to live their life as they see fit. They don't want to harm anybody, and they don't want anybody to harm them. I tell people the philosophy of the libertarians is I am free to do whatever I want whenever I want, but my liberty ends at the tip of your nose, and your liberty ends at the tip of my nose. I can't and shouldn't be allowed to do anything that adversely affects you or your property or anything you love, and nobody else should too. But outside of that, you should be able to be free to do whatever you do as you see fit. Make yourself happy.
There you go. That's a good philosophy.
Yeah.
When the world accepts that, the world will be a peaceful world.
Yeah, get out of my backyard. I'll stay out of yours.
Yep.
As long as you let me own my backyard.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yep. Yep, we need that philosophy in our world more and more. So we appreciate you promoting that ideology.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. And we will be around for quite a while. Like I said, my party's growing. Mine in particular, St. Louis County is growing as well. And if there's one benefit from a lot of some of the indoctrination that I would say that was going on with the younger kids about it was being perverted into, promoting trans things a little too heavily, I believe. But at least that message kind of might have backfired on a few of these people, because that message about you should be able to be whoever you want to be and nobody can tell you what to do, the kids remembered that and they absorb it. And now that's why even the younger generation now is getting turned off by the duopoly, because they remember that, wait a second, you're right, I am free to do whatever I want to do and be whoever I want to be. Yeah. And I'm just so grateful that whether they meant to do that or not, that the people that I talk to now, the 18 to 24-year-olds, the college kids when I'm in outreach, they are very excited about us. Just got to get them to vote for us. I've had too many times where like, yeah, libertarians are cheering for us, and I'm shaking their hands. And great, you want to be a libertarian? Oh, sure. I said, can I count on your vote? They said, no, but I'm cheering for you.
Yeah.
So I guess at this point I've got to get them to make that leap of, if you really want us to change, you can't just be pulling for those of us who are sticking our nose out and saying, wait, don't let the government dictate this stuff. Give us a shot. And that's why right now what we're doing is we're mostly focusing. Obviously, we have state-run offices. We have candidates that run for statewide offices and even national offices. And we'll continue to do that. But our efforts in particular are going to be on local offices, where we're going to try to win local elections, because we really want to show people what we can do once we're in office, that we can actually cut your taxes, that we can actually increase your freedom, get people out of your hair. And that happiness that you are entitled to have can be realized, but you're not going to get it until you can actually see what us libertarians can do once we're in some of these offices. So right now we're refocusing on 2026, and we're really going to focus our efforts and our resources on local offices. There'll still be a national presence, obviously, and the National Party will still be running all of their candidates. But as far as local branches like ourselves, we're going to be focusing hard on elections that we think we can win.
Well, that's good. That's good strategy.
Yeah. So,
Brad, we thank you for coming on the podcast, and you're doing a lot of great things, it sounds like, so we wish you all the best with your party and everything else you do in your personal and professional life.
well, thank you. And again, I appreciate your time. And if anybody does want any more information, please reach out to me right now. Direct message at on X at LPSTCHMO. That's our handle. You'll see the little red and blue porcupine with our at LP handle inside of him. So
Great. Stay warm and stay dry.
thank you. You too. Enjoy. Try to stay dry. Hopefully the weather holds out for you down there as well.
Great. Take care. All the best.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.